All right. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Greenies. Good evening, G Sams. And our admin. Guys, I hope you can hear me. If you can hear me, make some noise in the chat room so I can know you're with me. Are we there? All right. Beautiful. I really, first of all, want to. Okay, I am Gigi Sam Chris, EKG Chris, obviously, and it's a privilege to once again speak to you guys, Greenies, on a very, very important topic. So I have to acknowledge that I'm not supposed to take this lecture today, but our facilitator for today, he is unavoidably absent. So I had to step in. Well, I believe I should be able to do justice to the topic of the day. So without so much ado, let's just get to it. So try to remind you all that Green Stitch Academy is a project of Plogging Nigeria, and which I represent. So um, thank you to Plogging Nigeria for giving us this opportunity. So we're going to be speaking on climate change and the impact it has the on sports and also the environment. So I will be speaking broadly on the effect of climate change. We'll talk about what climate change is, and then we'll narrow it down to sports eventually. Or I want to touch a whole lot of other scopes like technology and all other stuff that comes with it. So in summary, climate represents the long-term average of weather patterns over an extended period of time, reflecting the overall climate characteristic of a region. While weather itself, on the other hand, refers to the short-term and immediate atmospheric condition observed at a particular moment or over a relatively brief period of time. So the difference between climate and weather is time. The major difference between climate and weather is time and span. Because when you look at the first definition, when we talked about climate, we talked about it as per that it takes a longer time, and then it's a pattern that repeats over a period of time, and then it spans over a region, that is space, so time and space. Then weather, on the other hand, is short term, and then the space is not really is not let's say it's not quantifiable, it's not that big, it's not significant in the definition of weather. So moving really quick. So climate refers to the long-term average weather pattern and condition. I've talked about that. And then weather obviously is short-term, like I said before. So since 1888, scientists have kept thermometric-based record of the global surface temperature. I mean, this is a long time ago. And these records have been kept. Like we started keeping record of the change in the temperature of uh, the Earth, as per se, the global temperature. We started keeping records since 1880. That is a long time. What is happening to the global temperature? The planet is becoming warmer, the climate is changing. So climate change basically is us trying to understand how over time the climate is changing. The planet is getting warmer. The average temperature is getting higher. So it affects everything. So that is basically what we'll be looking at tonight. Why it's getting warmer, how it's getting warmer. Are there things that can be done to stop it getting warmer? What is the significance of it getting warmer? And a whole lot more. So this is a chart from 1880 to 2016 that shows how the climate has changed. The average temperature has changed for the climate. So obviously you can see how the lines move and it keeps going up. So somebody will be like, to what end? When is it going to come down at some point? So I hope it comes down soon because we need it to. We need it to, because if it doesn't, then a whole lot of things will go wrong. So why is climate change a problem? Over millions of years, species become adapted to survive in conditions in which they live. A stable climate supports this process and allows living things to thrive. If the climate changes quickly, organisms don't have enough time to adapt to new conditions and may no longer be able to survive. So this is one of the reason why climate change is a problem. So the average, most of us that went to, that were science students when we were in secondary school, there's something we call average room temperature. If you ever did anything that has to do with chemistry, you will always hear this word, average room temperature, under standard pressure, under standard temperature. So these are the things that these are the metric we use to monitor these changes. So now imagine that we're not used to, as human beings, we're not used to having weather conditions that is as high as 60 degrees hot, 60 degrees, 70 degrees. And then suddenly one morning we wake up and we can't go out because the sun is blazing at 75 degrees by 8 a.m. in the morning. I mean, that will require a whole lot of adaptation, and not everybody will be able to adapt. Now, looking at the human beings that are supposed to be the wise and most intelligent species out there. So if human beings will have to, it will take us a whole lot to survive and adapt to such conditions. What do you think would happen to other animals that we believe that we are more intelligent than? So this could lead to some of them not being able to survive. So still on why climate change is a problem. Climate change disrupts weather patterns and causes extreme weather events to become more common. These include hurricane activity, droughts, and flood. As the global temperature has increased, so has the number of reported natural disasters. So these things are like interconnected. You can't really separate them. Like it's a direct proportion thing. As the climate is changing, as the temperature is, average temperature of the planet is rising, a whole lot of things happen that are not supposed to. We experience new phenomena that we never expected, or we never accounted for, we've never encountered before, due to this changing um, um, climate. So things like hurricanes, we hear about wildfires, we hear about flood, earthquakes, all these things. Most of them can be linked to the changing climate. As you can see from the graph here, the number of reported natural disaster is a graph of number of reported natural disaster against series of years. So you find out that as the years go by and the temperature increases, the number of reported disaster also increases. Like it's a direct proportional thing. I'm sorry I'm using maybe technical terms, but I don't know how else to explain these things. So still looking at why climate change is a problem. Rising temperatures are causing sea levels to increase. The rising water can cover coastal areas, destroy habitats, and displace whole populations from low-lying areas. So this is another problem that we face because of the changing climate. And maybe most of us that live in very much landlocked areas will not experience this. But if you have ever spent any time in the coastal areas, you find out that it's a big problem. It's a big issue for people living in coastal areas because the sea is rising. And as much as the sea level is rising, the water is not going to keep going up, like growing like a story building or something. It has to go ashore. It has to find more space for itself. So it displaces people, destroys habitats, the mangroves get swallowed up, and not just the humans right now, even animals that use these spaces as their habitats, they get displaced. And then, of course, human beings that use these spaces as their place of abode, they get displaced. So this is another reason why climate change is a problem. Again, there's a graph that shows you the sea level, how it's changing over time. That's what the graph is all about there. So rising sea level is driven by two main processes, ice melting and the thermal expansion. So ice melting has to do with when the atmosphere and the ocean get warmer, ice sheets and glaciers melt, resulting in addition of fresh water to the ocean. So I don't know if we've been able to, any of us have been able to watch any of these documentaries or even in the movies where you see these glaciers, because I wouldn't say if you've seen because it's not something that is close to us here in the West Africa, but it's something that there are places just like we have mountains, normal natural mountains in Africa or in Nigeria here. There are places where they have giant ice caps that can be called mountains of ice. But then because the temperature, average temperature is rising, these ice, they melt at a higher rate. And then when ice melts, what do you expect? Water, obviously. So with time, this water gets to deposit in the ocean and then increases the sea level at the same time. So that is one of the process of, that leads to rising sea levels. Another one is thermal expansion. As the ocean water gets warmer, it expands and causes sea level to rise. So thermal expansion has to do with when water is cold, when water is cold, the volume of the water reduces. As water gets warmer, its volume increases. That is what thermal expansion means. So if you have a bottle of water and it's maybe almost full but not really full, and then you put it in the fridge and allows it to freeze. By the time you bring it out and allow it to defrost, you're going to have the volume of that water in that bottle or whatever you use, the container you use, is going to be higher. So that is how also climate change causes the ocean, the sea level to rise. I am using a lot of technical terms. I hope I'm being understood. Please, if you're following and you're understanding, I want to hear something in the chat room, say something, drop something, anything. Encourage me. Please, I need some encouragement here. Somehow following. Okay. I just hope you're learning. All right, so we'll be moving on. Now, another reason why climate change is a problem is the increase in global temperature is causing a reduction in sea ice. This causes problem for animals that depend on the eyes to hunt, mate, and sleep. So I don't know if anybody has seen this type of bear that is very, very white. Like it's not like the normal black bear or brown bear that you see in the bushes. It's a white bear. This white bear is called the polar bear. It lives and eats and sleeps on these sea ice. That is where their habitat is. And there are other creatures like that. There are other animals like them too. So now, just like the ice caps, just like the ice mountains in quotes that I called them, just like they are melting because of the average rise in temperature, these sea ice also get to melt. So when they melt, these animals lose the place of their abode, they lose their home. So imagine as a human being, you wake up one morning and you find out that there's suddenly no land. Like where your house is, there's no land there again. There's nothing to match on, or there's no place to sleep, there's no place to live, basically. That is what some of these animals are experiencing because of the rising average temperature. And this is a very, very big problem that needs to be addressed. And I'm very sure as we continue, we'll look at how we can try to address some of these problems. Are you guys still hearing me? All right, great. So, still looking at why climate change is a problem. The bright surface of the ice reflects 80% of the sun that hits it back into the space. This keeps the polar region cool and moderate in global climate. When the area of sea ice is reduced, less sun is reflected back into space. This causes more ocean warming and reduces the sea ice even further. So, what this piece of text is trying to let you know is because of we have this sea ice, because of this sea ice, when the sun is incident on this sea ice, like when the sun shines on this sea ice is like crystal. It reflects the sun back into space. And this reflection, this process allows uh, allows the climate, the global climate, to remain moderate. Like it's like a check and balance mechanism for the global climate. But now, suddenly the sea ice is melting and it's not as big or as voluminous as it used to be. It means less sun is being reflected back into the space, which means that the oceans get warmer. Basically, like because we have less of these things to do what they naturally should have been doing, the atmosphere gets warmer. And when the atmosphere gets warmer, it means we lose more of this ice too. So the feedback drives faster climate change. The orange line on the picture, um, the orange line on the picture marks the average minimum sea ice coverage from 1981 to 2010. The white ice shows the minimum sea ice average in 2020. The difference between the two exceed 1 million miles. So this picture here is just trying to show you the orange line is how big this ice sheet was initially as at 1981. And then with time, it keeps reducing. And then now as at 2020, we just have this white space as the remaining ice sheet. And if you're being honest, it must have reduced more than this by now because we're already 2023. So 2 years, 3 years later, it must have reduced more, and it will keep reducing if nothing is done to checkmate it. Um, Another reason why this is a problem is no matter how fast react, the global temperature is said to continue rising. A result of greenhouse gases that are already in the atmosphere. So the damage already has been done. The damage has been done already. So even if we no matter what we do now, what we're already in, the fire is on, we are firefighting at this point. So we need to keep fighting. We need to not stop fighting, because if we stop fighting for a second, we might lose 3 hours. Basically, that's a reality that we are facing. But trust me, it's not really all gloom and doom. So the pictures here just tells you a whole story of how people are suffering because of um, communities are being affected by because of the climate change. So how much difference do you think a 0.5 centigrade increase in global temperature can make? So this is a question that we should ask ourselves. Is it not just 0.5 degrees? So it's minute, it's nothing. So can just manage, but in reality, it's a huge, huge difference. So to kind of summarize, another reason why climate change is a problem is the coral bleaching. This is a very, very big problem. The species, loss of species, the drought, the rising sea levels, these are all problems that we can definitely link back to climate change. These are all issues that we can definitely link back to climate change. So why is climate change a problem to sports? Sports relationship with climate can be described as complicated. On the one hand, emissions from sports make a significant contribution to climate change. On the other hand, heat waves and other extreme weather phenomena negatively affect competitions and impact the athlete's health and performance. So basically, what we're trying to look at here is the reason why, now specifically for sports, the reason why climate change is a problem, sorry, for sports. So sports is, like we've talked about in almost all the lectures we've had, sports generates a lot of uh, environmental hazards, if I should put it that way. A lot of things that is being done in all types of sports that affect the environment negatively. But on the other hand, the environment itself affects sports also, because imagine if there is a tsunami somewhere. I'm not sure anybody's going to be coming out there to want to play hockey or want to play football or any type of sports. So it's like the two things are affecting each other, and I'm very sure we'll look at also how it will be possible to find a balance between the whole problem. So is there a balance? Like right now in your mind, having listened to me for as long as you have, looked at the problems, um, why climate change is a big problem, do you think we can find a balance? Uh, I would like to stop now and listen to some of our thoughts, but we don't really have much time. So I'll continue. I'm very sure that if we finish on time, we'll have enough time to rub minds and think about this question of balance. So what causes climate change? So this is a big question I believe most of us have been asking ourselves since I started shouting and talking about climate change and all that. So CO2 and methane and water vapor are greenhouse gases that are found in the atmosphere. Energy travels from the sun to the earth as short-wave radiation. It does not interact strongly with the greenhouse gases molecule, so it reaches the Earth's surface. The Earth's surface is emits long radiation. This does not interact with the greenhouse gases. The greenhouse gases, molecules, greenhouse gases, and the greenhouse gases, they absorb some of this energy, trapping it in the atmosphere. And this process that I just described now, we're trying to explain the relationship between the Earth's gases or these radiations and the get in the water vapor and the CO2 in our atmosphere. But then when the Earth
I think we lost Gsam there for a second. Let's hold on until he comes back. Can you guys hear me? I just need one response. If you can hear me, let me know. Okay. So network is networking our GSAM this evening. But so far, the lecture has been very interesting. I'm super excited about that part about sea levels rising. I hope you are taking notes and learning one or two things, especially um, the parts where he explained how sports affects climate change. Oh my God. If you're a sports loving person, it's advisable that you just find a do more research on it and find what you can do to help the situation, no matter how little. Um, I'm mistaking long to come back.
sorry,
Okay, he's back.
sorry, I guess Nigeria happened to us.
Yep.
Network. So sorry about that. So I was trying to explain the phenomena that occurs, which helps cool the earth, which keeps it warm and essential for life. I don't know, some of us, if we've heard anything about space and the planets, how they interact with the sun and all that, and the reason why the earth is deemed as the most suitable planet for life to exist in. The reason is because of how our planet is able to interact with the gases and the radiation coming from the sun, and then uses it to keep the earth as warm, just warm enough for life to be able to exist in it. So that is what um, I was explaining. I did explain. So the higher the proportion of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, the more radiation is absorbed. This causes a rise in the temperature of the Earth, as known as the greenhouse effect. This increase in temperature drives climate change. So now, when this process keeps repeating itself, the radiation from the sun comes in, the CO2 and methane in our own atmosphere interacts with it, and then this process that normally should be keeping the earth warm for life to exist. Now, because the amount of this CO2, these greenhouse gases that are in our atmosphere is high, it makes the increase of temperature more faster, which causes climate change in itself, which drives the whole idea of climate change. So that is how we got to where we are at this point. So what causes climate change? climate change is basically caused by human activities most of the time. But there are other things that are not really human activities. They are natural processes, and of course, uh, things like volcanic eruptions and meteoric strike. They are always going to happen at some point. But then the one we are going to be looking at is um, human activities. The three main human activities that causes climate change. One is the burning fossil fuels for heating and cooking, generating electricity, powering vehicles, which releases carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So remember the process I told you, or I explained that causes that happens between the sun and our planet, which normally should keep us alive. But then because we have more CO2 in the atmosphere, the reaction happens too fast that now it becomes a threat to us because the climate now gets warmer by the minute. And the next human activity that influences climate change or causes it is deforestation, destruction of the forest, which releases carbon dioxide and reduces the number of trees that are able to capture this carbon dioxide because we breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide, and we've been told that trees take in the carbon dioxide and then give us oxygen. So imagine what will happen if we have more trees. We have less trees than humans. So humans keep producing carbon dioxide and there are no trees to absorb them. So this carbon dioxide travel up and stay in our atmosphere to do the same thing that I've explained before, just warm up the whole climate. The next thing I'm going to be looking at is the reduction of biodiversity, which creates an unstable ecosystem. Natural loss leads to ecosystems that are less able to capture carbon from the atmosphere and less resilient to rising temperature. This reduction in biodiversity can be linked to deforestation also because trees are part of the ecosystem, just like us human beings and all of that we can find in our planet. So when these species become extinct because of the activities related to bush burning, activities with man. When this thing
Again, network has taken our GSAM. Let's wait for some time. Give him some time. I wonder if you can hear me. Okay, Miriam, Yusuf, thank you.
Sorry, I'm back. I guess my network is not so happy tonight. Or I'll try and continue. So I was talking about the I hope you guys can hear me now, right? Can you hear me? Just say something in the chat. Anybody? All right, great. So I'll just continue. So I talked about reduction in biodiversity and or unstable ecosystem because of the loss of some of the species that are supposed to keep the cycle going. So when this happens, it allows climate change to continue because the system that is supposed to checkmate these things are not there. Just like I talked about for deforestation, how trees are supposed to capture this carbon dioxide that are now being left to go and stay in the atmosphere and cause more damage to our already uh, suffering planet. So we just continue. So what you see there are pictures of deforestation is a big issue. Fossil fuel, our refinery, they should get it working or see that it's all on the environment and it's causing more harm to the environment. So I hope somebody will listen to this presentation and then come up with a different solution that would give us everything we have now or even better without harming the environment. So who causes climate change? If you're looking at this pie chart, very obvious, Africa contributes so little to climate change, while Europe, North America, and Asia obviously contribute more. So the 50 least developed countries are thought to have contributed just 1% of the greenhouse gases that have caused global warming. The US, the EU, and China alone contributed 60%. So who does climate change affect? In the long term, everyone will feel the effect of climate change. However, some people are currently more affected than the others. In most cases, the wealth of prosperous countries has come from activities which contribute to greenhouse gases emissions. This wealth allows these countries to protect themselves from the effect of climate change, while the poorer countries are less able to adapt to climate change and therefore suffer the most from its effects. They are also less able to develop because they need to focus on addressing the challenges caused by the climate. So this is very, very simple to understand. It sounds very unfair. As a matter of fact, it is unfair that the people that contribute the most to climate change suffer the least, and the people that contribute the least to climate change suffer the most, because from the pie chart we saw earlier, the people that actually cause or release these gases into the atmosphere the most made money. They made a fortune out of it, and they are able to use this money to buy protection for themselves. Why the poor countries that did not contribute to this climate change have not made this money too, and they are less capable of protecting themselves, so they get affected by climate change even more. So the countries who have contributed the least to climate crisis are the ones who are affected the most. Is this fair? I don't think it's fair. If you think it's fair, you should tell us in the chat box. So who can fix this problem? Who can fix it? So first of all, as always, the government can make laws and policies that reduce the amount of greenhouse gas emissions. So the governments with their policies, the constitution, and all the powers they have can actually enforce these policies on stakeholders. When I say stakeholders, companies, factories, manufacturing companies, they are the ones that do release most of these gases, greenhouse gases, into the atmosphere. So if the government can be able to get these people under control, then we are already winning this fight against climate change. The next people that can help to fix this problem of climate change is we. We also can use our voices to let businesses, the government, anybody that cares to hear know that we want them to act quickly to reduce the impact of climate change. So here we try to look at what you can do, what I can do, what the next person can do, what everybody that attended Green Switch Academy 24 can do, can talk about, can act that would let people know that this is a very serious issue. Because one of the things that is a problem is when you don't know that something is a problem. So you don't even try to look for solutions to it. But I believe that every one of us here today, having been to this academy, having listened to most of these lectures, having done some personal research, we will understand that climate change is a very, very big problem, and one that needs to be attended to as soon as possible. So we need your voices, we need you to use your platform to be able to preach this gospel, tell people, engage people, and obviously push for change in no matter how small capacity or big capacity you have, to make sure that people understand the danger we face if we keep living this life on this planet the way we are going at the moment. So another look at who can fix this is the sports. I think all through the classes, the lessons we've been having during this academy, we've been looking at how sports is related to climate change and how we can leverage sports to push the gospel of the green gospel even more further. So sports can be a tool, as we have seen throughout the lessons we've learned during this academy, to be a vital tool to amplify voices calling for climate action and also put pressure on stakeholders to enforce desired changes. So because of how big sports is and how unifying sports can be, I mean, you look at something like events like the World Cup. The World Cup is one of the events that bring the whole world together. Like millions and billions of people are interested in watching it. They're interested in talking about it. They want to chat about it. They want to have something to do with it. So sports is a very big factor, a very big driving force that we can use to drive home this message of actions to help us combat climate change. We talked about putting pressure on stakeholders. If you're a basketball fan, you know of IFAB, the federation worldwide that governs the body for basketball. You know about FIFA, that's for football, and they have this kind of federations in almost all the sports. And these federations wield great, great power in shaping government policies and every other. I think during COVID-19, you will notice that most of the policies that were meted out during COVID-19 were shaped by sports, because you cannot tell Ronaldo and his teammates not to travel because there is COVID-19 to go and play ball, stuff like that. And at some point, they made arrangements for players to play in certain conditions that allow them to play even during COVID period. So football has a way of shaping how policies are made. And if football and generally sports can be at the forefront of this fight against climate change, definitely it will be a very big win for us. So moving forward, we'll be looking at technological solutions for mitigating climate change. I'll just breeze through most of this. So blockchain technology has the potential to mitigate climate change in several ways, which include carbon footprint tracking, emission trading, tracking, renewable energy certificates, supply chain transparency, energy grid management, climate financing, and funding. So it's worth noting that while blockchain technology has significant potential, it also faces challenges such as scalability, energy consumption, and regulatory framework. However, with further development and adoption, blockchain can be a valuable tool in mitigating climate change. So we'll be looking at different technologies that can be used as tools or solution to provide solution to the problem of climate change. And one of them is blockchain technology. Because of time, I might not really dive into explaining what blockchain technology is. If you're very much interested in it, you can do a research online or send a DM to me or WhatsApp, obviously. So I can explain this further. Our time is very much far spent. Another technology that can become a very useful tool to in the fight against climate change is cloud and web services. So cloud and web services can contribute to mitigate climate change in several ways, which include virtualization and remote work. So virtualization and remote work is maybe if you're looking at most of these things I listed here, you'll be wondering how are these things going to help us fight against climate change. So, for example, now remote work. Imagine that you work from home and maybe you work at an office that is like a 1 hour 30 minutes drive from your house. So for 1 hour 30 minutes, normally without cloud and web services, you will be burning fossil fuel, whether train, bus, cab, whatever type of vehicle you have. You'll be burning fossil fuel from your house to your office every day. But with remote work, you don't have to. You can just stay in your house and still be productive. That's a very good example of how cloud and web services can contribute and mitigate climate change. So for that duration or those days that you don't have to go to your office, you don't have to burn fossil fuel, you don't have to release more CO2 into the atmosphere. So the same thing goes for digitalization of services, energy efficiency, data analytics and optimization, sustainability awareness and education, carbon footprint calculation tools, collaboration and knowledge sharing. I believe we've used some of these carbon footprint calculation tools during the academy where we were asked to calculate our carbon footprint. So I'll just run along. Another technology that is going to help us in this fight is data science and AI. AI is the big thing now. Almost everybody is trying to find a way to integrate AI into their workspace, trying to find a way to leverage it. I mean, people, I heard somewhere, or I did not see, I heard somewhere that people are now framing pictures of themselves that were generated by AI and hanging it. So AI is a big deal, basically. That's what I wanted to point out. It's a big deal now. Data science, machine learning, these are all technologies that can be leveraged to help us in this fight against climate change. So climate modeling and prediction, if we can be able to predict it, I'm very sure we can be able to prepare for it. If you can predict it, you can prepare for it. So if we can be able to leverage data science, machine learning, AI to build models that are able to predict accurately how the climate is going to change within specific periods of time or places, then we are winning already. So renewable energy integration, energy efficiency, smart grid optimization, emissions monitoring and management, carbon footprint analysis, sustainable agriculture and land use, climate risk assessment and adaptation. These are all the things that data science and AI can give us. These are the tools that this technology can give us that gives us an advantage. Remember what I said before, we are already losing this battle. And no matter what we do, the fire is already on. We are already fighting the fire. So these solutions are not going to end climate change. It's not going to end climate change. It's just going to help us manage it. And maybe one day, while we're managing, one day, something will just drop and somebody will find out a way to finally end climate change. So until that happens, we have to leverage these technologies to manage the situation. So IoT is another aspect of technology that is very, very important. This is a space I know very well because I work with it. Like because of my background in IT, I understand how this can be a very, very important tool when we use it right to combat climate change. So energy management efficiency, smart grid optimization, environmental monitoring and conservation, precision agriculture, smart transportation and logistics, waste management and recycling, forest fire detection and prevention. So IoT mostly deals with sensors. So when we use IoT, we're able to detect when things are happening and react to them in real time. So for example, I think the last time I had a session with us, I talked about smart bins and how they are able to tell you that, all right, I'm full now, you can come and take out the trash. That is one of the things IoT gives you, and that is something that can help us in the fight against climate change. So new opportunity, the transition of to a low carbon country in the years ahead brings with it many opportunities. Innovation is a process of turning an idea into a solution that solves a problem. Transitioning to low carbon economy will provide lots of opportunity for innovation. There will be a need for people leaving education to do things differently, to come up with new ideas for products and technologies, and to explore new conservation methods. Like I said, while the things I mentioned before can help us manage the situation, the hope or the idea is that while we try to breed new ideas, one day we're going to get better at these things. We're going to find better solutions to this problem through innovation. So the SDGs, um, they are there in the same year that the Paris Agreement was signed. 17 Sustainable Development Goals were adopted by the all UN nations members, and 17 goals of set out set all of the things that needs to be achieved to protect the planet and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity. So the SDGs, I believe everybody that is here on this call should know something about the SDGs. So I'm not going to dwell on that because our time is far, far spent. So yeah, sports versus the climate. All over the world, all over the world, we can already see the impact of a changing climate on sports, particularly in large-scale events that draw millions of fans. So like when we have the Super Bowl, the World Cup, the all the big international sports events, the Olympics, these events are so big that they have a huge impact on the environment. So extreme heat doesn't just affect summer sports. According to recent studies, half of the former Winter Olympic host cities could be unable to sponsor winter games by 2050 due to a lack of snow and ice. So I'm not sure anybody is going to be asking why there will be a lack of snow and ice in these cities, because I've explained before, even with graphics, how this ice they are melting over time, and the rate is even getting higher. So I hope that maybe we think that it's not a problem because we don't have snow in Africa or in Nigeria, but maybe your child was destined to be maybe do ice hockey or something, and then there'll be no ice for him to fulfill his or her destiny. So these are some of the challenges that sports is facing because of the impact of the climate change. So a warming world with unpredictable weather patterns means postpone races and cancel competition, which can be highly disruptive for sports organizations and disappointing for athletes and spectators. So, I mean, if you're a lover of sports, any type of sports, and then you dress up, you're so pumped up for this game or this race or whatever, Formula One, any type of sport, and then on getting there or trying to get there, there is a hailstorm. I mean, how are you going to get there? Even if you are already in the venue and you know that there is no way for you to go home, you're not going to enjoy the moment. You're not going to concentrate on the game. You're not going to have that ecstasy that you expect to have from watching a sport you love. So these are the challenges that sports face as a result of a changing climate. So finding a balance. The potential of sports to help climate is not just about reducing the carbon footprint of events. It's also about promoting climate awareness and action among the millions of sports fans. So this is something that we've talked about. I think everybody that had handled a session in this academy have hammered on this particular topic. The idea of using sports as a tool to raise awareness about climate change and other environmental issues that these football fans, these cricket fans, all the types of sports, the fans of these sports can be able to learn about these issues through their interaction or their love for these various sports. So as the most popular sports in the world, football has the potential to reach wide audiences and drive significant change. In 2022, that was last year, the UEFA is the Union of European Football Associations, cooperated with European Commission to raise awareness on energy saving and launched its new sustainable football infrastructure guideline as part of its football sustainability strategy 2030, themed strength through unity. So here we're looking at these are steps that have been taken. These are steps that are being taken by sports institutions to help fight against the problems of climate change and every other type of issues that comes from the environment or that works against the environment. So what UEFA is trying to achieve here is to make sure that they are doing their bit. They are doing the little they can to raise awareness about these things and also design policies that will allow the game of football to be used as a beacon of to be used as a policy system to put pressure on the government. Now, I think I talked about this before, to put pressure on the government and other stakeholders. Imagine, for example, they have a policy. Let's say this committee this commission have a policy that says you can't build a stadium without proper waste management system, for example. It means that the construction companies that are going to build these stadiums will become aware of the situation on ground, of the challenges that could arise if waste is not managed properly. And they will have to follow the guidelines of these football institutions to do that. So that is how sports can become a very big and important tool in our fight against climate change. So in conclusion, Climate change requires urgent action from all of us. Sports and technology serve as powerful tools in mitigating and adapting to its impact by harnessing renewable energy, improving energy efficiency, promoting electric mobility, and leveraging technological advancement. We can make significant progress towards a sustainable future. Collaborative efforts by big sporting institutions and fan engagement further enhance our ability to combat climate change. Let us unite our efforts and take action to safeguard our planet for future generations. Like I always say, it's the only planet we have, and if we fail to save it, I'm not sure we'll have any regret because there'll be no planet to be on to have regrets. So let's just try our possible best to save this one that we have now. So thank you very much. I know it's a long session. I hope you learned something. I really appreciate the audience and thank you.
Thank you so much, Gisam Chris. That was a very, very educative session. I don't know about you guys. Can you hear me? Can anyone hear me? Okay, okay. Thank you, Gisam Chris, again for that insightful session. I don't know about anyone else, but I feel really, really blessed with all that you have revealed to us tonight. So quickly, let's take questions. Is there? Does anyone have questions? Any question? So there are no questions. Okay, then let's write up and return to the group chat for the rest of the night. So let's go back to the group chats, guys. Thank you all for coming. Government isn't helping us. Can the government go to order? Jisam Chris, I don't know if you're still there. I think this is a question for you.